going to call this meeting to order. Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Mark Gregg.
I am here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin.
Here.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Here.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I've asked our firefighter, young man there, to lead us in the pledge, please. Yeah. Tongue twisted there. Okay. We're going to have a quick prayer here and get started here. Lord, we thank you for this awesome day that you have made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And Father, we just thank you that for all the rain, the sun, just the beautiful trees and everything around us where we live. We just ask your blessings to be upon all here. We pray for this meeting tonight, and we just ask your guidance, and we ask all this in your precious name. Amen. Okay, council, request for deletions and emergency additions. Anybody?
I don't have a deletion or omission, but there's an item on the agenda that I would like to see if we could move forward. It's the last three tabs, and the agent for that, or the representative for that.
It's G, H, and I.
Yes, I understand that may be withdrawn, and if so, since it's at the end of the meeting, it seems unfair to make them wait that whole time for 1 minute in the spotlight to do that.
So it's G, H, and I, and they want to defer it until November 21st meeting. So are we okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. John, do we need to take a vote on it?
Yeah, it would be, there would be a motion to defer tabs G, H, and I to the November 21st meeting, starting at 5:30 here at the community center. Okay. That would be the motion.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Excuse me. Sorry.
I want a discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's after the vote.
Election.
There's obviously a political reason for that, which I really don't object to, but the fact is, I would like to hear it before that. I just would. I think we deserve the opportunity to hear it before that. Some of us put in 4 years, 2 years. We don't know if we're going to be here after the election. I just think it's something that we should consider. If I'm wrong, you can say so.
I'm just saying, I think it's something they applied for, and we can't, if it's a certain amount of days, it's a certain amount of days.
Well, I understand that, but I just want to be on the record of my position and the reason for that position. Okay. That's all.
I think the applicant has a right to ask for one deferment. I mean, I'm not trying to disagree with Henry, but we may not have the authority to go along with that.
I'll concede to you because you're correct. But I just wanted to make the observation. Thank you.
Well,
I think you're correct.
in that vein, I assume that one of those guys, are either of those guys correct?
So, yes and no. So yes and no in terms of this scenario. An applicant has an absolute right to request a deferral 7 days before the meeting. I think it's 7 days. There's a set time period. And as long as it's in writing to the planning director doesn't have any discretion. She has to grant it. When at the point where we're at now, it comes before the council and it's a request to defer, and it's the council's discretion on the deferral.
Oh, so we don't have to accept it.
You don't have to. You can put it on you can say we'd like to do it in October, and you can move it to that date. It was the request was for November, but you could put it then if you'd like.
So my comment on this is either do it. Let's either do it in October or do it in December, so that newly elected group is not faced with the situation we had when this group came in and there was messy and horrible and nasty and actually quite traumatic to have a big decision.
Well, I think we can actually do both, because it's an ordinance that requires 2 readings. So we could hear the first one, and the second council could hear the second one.
Oh, they're so creative. Like,
the-
that's really coming together.
Go ahead, John.
The other thing I wanted to point out is the applicant would also, the applicant has a one-time right to request a deferral. So even if we put it in October and if they're not ready to go, they would still have the right to request that deferral under our code.
Even though they
That's
already.
the second time?
Well, because they requested, it's at the request of council. You know what? That's a good point. Let me look at the code and see what the provision, because the last time we dealt with it, it was the council requesting the deferral and not at the applicant's request. I will be right back with you.
And I just want to clarify that only one of the tabs requires 2 readings. Only one of the tabs requires 2 readings. The other 2 tabs, only 1 reading.
Okay, thank you for that, but I think they are codependent, or whatever the right word is for that.
They're
Interrelated?
intertwined.
Okay, well,
And the applicant's representative is in the audience if you want him to offer any input.
Well, what is your pleasure?
Well, we're waiting to hear John's
Let John
response.
look
Okay.
at that. Bart, did you want to say something? Go on to the mic, please.
I defer first to what John has to provide on the deferral, and then if I need to comment on it, I will.
Thank you.
You want to hear
I
Deb
apologize, Bart Smith on behalf of the applicant.
while we're waiting? Deb's,
Who's
you want to hear, Deb has a report. You want to hear it while we're waiting? So in order not to rush our attorney.
I would say this would fall under the applicant's one-time request, because it's being made by the applicant now.
Okay, so what's the will of the council?
well, I'm not clear. It's-
Meaning they would not be able to ask again.
Well, so they can ask the request, that's one issue. It's the timing of it. Is that also included within that one-time privilege?
Well, it says if the request is not received within the time period specified above, it shall be considered by the village council at its sole discretion. That's where we're at. The request was received after the
Yes.
the time period. So that this falls within their one-time request, meaning they would not be able to make another one-time request as of right.
So we don't have an option to adjust the date on it.
Well, it's at the council's sole discretion. I mean, the council could put it to November, could put it October. Frankly, you could put it to January. I mean, it's anything in a 180-day time period. So it's at the council's discretion. I mean, there might be a reason why, I don't know what the reason was for the November date. There might be a reason why.
Yeah, and so we're trying to address the concerns over traffic and get the study adjusted. September, we're pretty much at the advertising date for that. I have a concern that we haven't even contacted the traffic consultant to address the gross versus net. I'm fairly confident what the results are, having seen enough traffic studies, but still want to address that discrepancy. And so I felt September's probably too soon. October's probably correct, and if we're ready to go in September, I actually want to go in September, and if October we're ready, but November would be the outside date. If you're concerned it's the first meeting for the council, I'm more than comfortable saying defer to the December date, and if I can get it to you before then, we're going to be back in front of you before then. It's not about who's on the council, because we don't even know who's called. It's more about making sure that we have it done before we go back to you.
Yeah, my concern is that you will have a new council, and, I mean, we just spent the last 5 days learning about this, and I would hate to have the repeat of last year's messiness dumped onto the council. So, I mean, it sounds like everyone's in agreement here. We'll delay it, and, there's no big,
I'm in favor of that because whether I'm here or not, possibility, I will not be here in November. And
Any of us could not be here, Henry.
All
Exactly.
5 of us may be gone.
that's exactly right. But I'm not suggesting that. We have shouldered this proposition for some time. I know it's just come up recently, but it's been there for a long time. I want to give the opportunity to discuss it. And if you're gonna take that opportunity away from me, which is okay, I mean, I'm not gonna feel comfortable with it, but I would like to discuss it. So to me, the date that I would propose, and I'll make a motion, you don't have to second it, that we hear this GH&I believe, in
October.
At the
October, yes, October.
That's fine, I don't care, fine,
Okay.
sure.
Okay?
So the motion, just so we have the specific date, because it would be for the October 10th meeting at 5:30 here at the community center.
Is that the second October date? Yeah,
Yes,
the land
that's
use
that-
one?
yeah, that's the land use meeting.
What's the date, John?
October 10th at 5:30 here at the community center.
Hey, Bart, are you okay with that?
Just making sure I'm here. My kids are in school, so I'm guessing I'm around. It's that fun thing during the summer. It's like, no, I'm probably doing something, but once next week starts, yay, kids back in school, schedules are back in place. So, yes, no, I'm around. I am here. So, it is actually though the City of Key West Commission meeting date as well. You got to time
Okay,
it.
so is the October 10th gonna be okay?
Yeah, the only caveat I give is I may be requesting September as well, but because if I get it done, we'd want to go in September. But let's do the October date, and if I can get it, we'll pay for the advertising for September.
Thank you.
Sound good?
Hey, John, okay, give us a motion then.
If you want to do it, it would be a motion to defer tabs G, H, and I to the October 10th meeting at which starts at 5:30 here at the community center. That would be the motion.
So moved.
Okay, so Henry made a motion. Do I hear a second? Yes. Okay. Marnie, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal.
Yes?
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin. Yes. Councilmember Mark Gregg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you, and thank you for the courtesy of bringing this to the front. Thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, Bart, be safe coming back from the Bahamas, man. All right, so any other deletions or additions from anybody? No? Okay, with that said, we're going to move on then.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to talk about a piece of property. When do I do that?
Let's do that under Mayor Council Communications. How about that?
Thank you.
All right, you want to say it now? You want to put it down? Because that is an addition that you want to talk about, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say it. Say what you want to say, and then we'll discuss it under the Mayor Council
I
Communications.
spoke with Peter Frezza today about a piece of property at mile marker 76,800 that on one side of it is state-owned property, the other side is conservation. And I was told today that they are trying to get that rezoned commercial, and so commercial highway. So I was wondering if we could have Peter and the staff look into the possibility of maybe Florida Forever, Monroe County Land Authority to maybe purchase that property with us or not with us, without us, which I'm sure would be good, and keep it conservation, because I don't think anybody wants a strip mall to be put in there, and it's a beautiful area. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, that area. Yep. And I know we've talked about it in the past, but now that there's movement to get it rezoned commercial, I'm just afraid what might happen. So I would.
Discuss that under the Mayor Council
Yes.
Communications? Okay, all right, okay.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, please refresh me. We had a hangover item from last night's meeting regarding our discussion and selection of a consultant for the comp plan. Are we going to talk about that tonight, or do we agree to push that to the September meeting? I can't recall.
It was pushed to today, and there's an updated agenda. It's going to be under resolutions. So that'll actually be the first substantive item that you all are scheduled to talk about today.
I have not seen that, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
It might not be in your printed book because that was printed before, but on the public agenda online, it was updated.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so Sharon, I'm just putting your name down there and we'll discuss it under.
And that was tab 16 from last night.
Tab 16 from last night?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that moves us to public comment, general public comment. Marnie, is there any public comment?
Yes, Van Cadenhead.
Evening, Council. Van Cadenhead from Islamorada. I'm going to jump back into the deep end at the pool here that we had the discussion last night about lifeguards and closing on Sunday and one thing and another. And I don't know if I want to address this to Mr. Cole or to Maria Baggiati or to the mayor and council. But from the time I was young, I was a scuba diving instructor, and I've spent a lot of time in pools, public pools. And I've also been in charge of the pool at Holiday Isle back in the 70s. And, you know, one of the things about being a lifeguard is that you have to make sure that the water is up to snuff. You got the pH factor you have to measure every day and make sure it's clean and clear. And I've noticed that this pool here, as far as maintenance goes, is very poor. If you look at go in there with a mask and look at the grout between all the tiles is black algae mold, which is not good. It's a sign of, the bacteria. And if you go into the diving well, which is, deep, all around the walls are green algae growing on the walls. Now, they figured just to adjust the amount of chemicals is not curing the problem. What cures the problem is elbow grease and lifeguards that aren't afraid of work. Because you have to wipe the perimeter of the pool at water level with algicide at least once a week. We used to do it at Holiday Isle on a daily basis because we had such high traffic. But you don't want to get to the point where people are getting sick from being in that pool. And if you were to go in and jump in that pool with a mask, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's green algae growing all around the edges of the diving well on the walls. And if you look down the tile, which delineates the lanes, there's black algae in there. Now, what takes that away is elbow grease. And you have lifeguards out there that are making, if you want to make more than $20 an hour, that's going to bring you more candidates. And as far as candidates in liability goes, I would think that it would be wise to have one of the stipulations for hiring new lifeguards. Am I interrupting something? I would think it would be wise to have a limit of 18 years for a lifeguard, because that would help out, I'm sure, with your insurance. And if someone were to drown, it would be a bad thing. So I just want to bring up the condition of the water and the pay of the lifeguards and the age of the lifeguards, because this pool was put in when I first came on board with the village back in '98, and it's a multi-million-dollar investment. It's a beautiful pool.
Let's wrap it up, please. Come on.
Okay, yes, okay. And I would just ask you to focus your attention on the condition of the pool, because it's going to be completely renovated and drained down to nothing and then resurfaced. But one of the reasons that we have this problem now is because it hasn't been maintained. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marnie, we have any other public comment?
Gotta say something.
Go ahead, Elizabeth, go ahead.
Could I have the floor?
Wait, hold on one second. Do we have any other public comment?
Yes, we do. We have Mr. Wishmeyer on Zoom.
Okay, soon as public comment's finished, you will have the floor.
I might get over it by then, but.
No? Okay, all right. Go ahead, Marnie.
Okay, Mr. Wishmeyer, go ahead. You've got 3 minutes.
Yes, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. I would like to take this time to commend this council on moving forward with more moratoriums. I would hope that you would consider actually a total moratorium, including TDRs on all projects except for workforce housing. By workforce housing, I'm not talking about $750,000 homes, but apartment buildings like the 1-bedroom, 1-bath units proposed yesterday at Woods Ave. You're hiring a company to redo the entire comp plan, so until the new comp plan is done, no decisions should be made. The decisions that you make now may not be legal with the new changes. People are so concerned about future lawsuits from takings, but we're still taking applications, so we need to think of the future. This is why so many people, contractors, and developers are chomping at the bit to get in before any major changes take place. Even tonight, you are being asked to make flum changes and zoning changes, not knowing what the new comp plan will say. Put a stop to all of this until we have clarity and definition of the new plan. People can wait another 6 months or so. They've waited this long. I also wish that you would reconsider when you call for public comment on an item. It would be more informative to hear what council members have to say before we speak. Some issues are confusing, so listening first may help us with facts, or maybe we could help you with some facts. Either way would be beneficial to both parties and maybe even get more public participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie, do we have anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Elizabeth, you have the floor.
I know it's not our policy.
No, you're
to
okay. Public
respond.
comment's
I just
closed.
wanted to just state that actually the pool is beautifully maintained and our lifeguards work very hard. They show up. I just couldn't let it go because they do an excellent job. If anyone goes in the pool, I'm there every day. I am not sick. And not only that, but the community is benefited by this amazing resource. They do a great job. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask you that question, how many times a week you swim, and you just told us. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so let's move on to Citizens Advisory Committee reports. Deb Gillis, LPA.
Hello? Okay. Good evening, Council. It's Deb Gillis, and I'm the chair of the LPA. We had a committee meeting on June the 10th, and we had all 7 members present. We had 6 items in front of us to review. The first 2 items was the Lynn Bell property, which I believe is in front of you tonight. The applicant requested a flume change from residential medium to mixed use and from zoning and a zoning change from settlers residential to highway commercial. The LPA had a discussion about this property was surrounded with other commercial, and we recognized that it was also on US 1, so we were recommending that you approve this. So the approval was to the flume to go from residential medium to mixed use, and the zoning from settlers residential to highway commercial, and that was a 7-0 vote. We also discussed buffer yard adjustments, which I believe was already here once, at least. I think it's an ordinance, so you may hear it again. I wanted to go through our thoughts anyway. This was an ordinance that would eliminate the requirement of a residential zoning property to place a buffer yard on their property where they are adjacent to a commercial zoning property. The requirements of the commercial zoning property would still be to put the buffer in. It was discussed that the fact that even though the residential buffer would be eliminated, that they would still have to meet the setbacks and would not be allowed to build. It was only the buffer that would be eliminated. That passed LPA as a 5-2 vote. We had a shoreline setback discussion on tiki huts on the docks. This would allow tiki huts or gazebos on docks or canals and basins, on docks, on canals and basins. I'll get it right, yeah. This came in front of us because of a resident appealing to you. We looked at the correction to it, and there are several tiki huts and gazebos that this would apply to, that if a storm took them out, that they couldn't be replaced, and they've been there for a long time. Staff brought us an ordinance that we thought corrected that problem and didn't cause any other problems, so we approved that as a 6-to-1 vote. We also had in front of us an ordinance about the temporary moratorium on administrative relief applications. Again, you've heard that on first read. I think you have second read this evening. That passed LPA as a 6-to-1 vote. And our last item, and we only had one of the 3 items that you were going to hear tonight for the Islander. Only one of them was required to come in front of LPA. And I know you're not hearing it tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what we did. Creekside LLC requested a zoning change, zoning change from village center to neighborhood commercial. Village center prohibits the conversion of motel units into residential, multifamily, or affordable units. The zoning change would allow Creekside Motel to develop into an affordable housing project. The motel units would be then transferred to the Islander property. That is what we did not hear, but we heard the background of why this was going on. LPA members stressed that these affordable units must be approved, developed, and finalized prior to the motel units being finalized. We would be, we could have them built simultaneously, but before there was a CO on the motel, you should have your CO on the affordable. And that passed 7-0 at our meeting. Our next council meeting, or our next council, I'm sorry, our next LPA meeting was September the 9th, and it has been canceled. So I'll see you in October. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, did you have any questions? I'm sorry.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Okay, Mayor Council Communications. Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
Again, I would like for us to take a look at the property at mile marker 76. When I talked to Peter today, he was very positive about it, and do not want it to become another park. I would just like to see it stay conservation, and that's it. I just wonder if we could take a look at it.
Also, but it could be workforce housing because it's where the tennis courts are.
Yeah, it could be, but, or we could leave it,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think right now, since there is someone looking at changing it to commercial, is that correct?
So we've received an application from the owner of the tennis club to change it from the existing zoning, which is native residential, to neighborhood commercial. The reason that they've cited, we just received this application this week, so we haven't had a lot of time to do the research, but the reason that they've cited for the change is the tennis club has been abandoned for more than 365 days. It's a non-conforming use and native residentially zoned, so they would not be able to bring that use back. In order to do that, they would need to change the zoning to a zoning district that allows for a tennis club. That's the reason they've cited for the request for the change, and that's what they've presented. Again, we just received it this week. They haven't even paid the fee yet, so we haven't had a chance to deep dive into it. I would just also note that there's open code violation on the property, and they owe about $180,000 in fines on the property. So there's a lot going on.
I know there is, but I'm just saying, instead of, we want to see it stay the way it is, and I don't know, housing, I don't know about that, but I'm just, go ahead, Rob.
There's a clubhouse there.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
You know, people have asked us about that.
We've been looking at it on and off for years.
Just one other consideration. I spoke with Pete as well today, and one thing he wanted me to highlight was that if we want to use Florida Forever funding, assuming that it gets on that list and is approved, that it would have to be conservation and no other purpose.
Sure.
So that's not to say we can't do the other ones. It's just that from a financing perspective, we would pay the whole boat instead of whatever.
Yes.
Can I ask a couple of questions? I'm learning as we speak. I wasn't sure of the property, but now we're talking about the tennis court there. So I get that. This is a dumb question for me to ask, but we don't have a moratorium on acceptance of zoning change applications?
We do not.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I like your idea, and I think it's a good one. If we could, and it's zoned currently
Native residential.
native residential, so that's close to conservation. If we were to acquire that, I don't know if the state or the county normally buys a developed property. However, if we were to return it to its native condition,
Plant your trees.
there we go. You're reading my mind. So there's a place for us to put all the trees that we've cut down.
I don't think we really need another park. That's just my opinion. We have 6 parks already in the village.
There's a lot of people want
Uh,
pickleball.
I-
Well, we'd have to ask the
Well,
folks
I'm
on.
gonna be honest, whether I'm running for election or not.
We have to do a little survey with.
Well, yeah, I know the pickleball thing,
I
but
think we
it's,
should ask the residents of Lower Matacumbe, because they're special, they're different, they like low density, they like to be left alone.
well, again, I'm just saying before somebody snatches this up and changes it to something, maybe it wouldn't be affordable housing. Maybe they put a strip mall in there. I don't know, but I'm just saying, where there's conservation on either side of it, correct? The state owns one, is that right? And I just think it's something that we should just at least check into and see the possibilities. Peter was extremely positive about it, so I thought I'd bring it up and see what we could come back with.
I'm on board, but isn't it also true, Jennifer, that we don't give out building permits, and I don't think we give out planning approvals until someone has resolved their code enforcement problems?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And it could be possible to, take, I don't know the size of it, but it could be possible to keep a certain amount in conservation and have a little park with some pickleball courts.
There you go, you got your little park. That's
Okay,
fine.
on part of it, so, Mark can get his trees and
You get your
hammock,
pickleballs.
and other people that are come knocking on my door wanting pickleball courts.
So
But people in Lower Matacumbe have talked about it, that they, so,
Well, I'm just bringing it forward.
okay. All right, so do we want to put this on a future agenda here, or do we want to direct staff to do something? Okay, Rob, go ahead.
I think if council wants to take a vote for providing staff direction, that's fine, but my consensus view right now is, yes, let's look into it and report back.
Okay, are we all, is there a consensus here? Yes. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anything else while we're under mayor council communications? Nothing else? Okay. So let's move on then to village attorney, village manager communications. You guys have anything?
No, sir, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to resolutions then. So we're on to talking about last night, tab 16.
Yep, tab 16 from last night. It's a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada, Village of Islands, Florida, approving the selection and recommendation of the RFP 24-10 Evaluation Committee for the Comprehensive Plan Update, authorizing the village manager and village attorney to negotiate an agreement for the project, authorizing village manager to execute the agreement, authorizing a budget amendment, authorizing the village manager to expend budget funds, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, Jennifer.
Well, where we left off last night, the council was interested in asking some or all of the consultants that provided responses to the RFQ to come in for an interview of sorts. And so you were going to go back and look at your link of all the proposals and determine how many of those consultants you wanted to see, if not all of them. And then you were going to give me some guidance as to what that would look like, whether it was full-on presentations, so that I could then in turn tell the consultants what to be prepared for. And then we also need to decide, is this going to be a special call where we would just do this? We're going to add it to a meeting? How do you want to do this?
All right, council. Start.
I don't think adding it to a meeting is going to be a long
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't think so. I think it might, I personally think it might take a special call meeting.
I do too, just because especially if Henry wants.
He wants all 5 of them, yeah.
I think we should devote the time and attention to it that it
agree.
most richly deserves. This is a hugely important decision that will affect well past our time. So let's do the best we can, and then some.
Once again, as I said last night, to invite all 5, you really don't know who is who until you see them. Maybe some guy comes in a bathing suit. and you say, look how this guy's dressed. I don't think I want to put him with this job. It's happened to me more than once.
In a
And
bathing suit?
not in a bathing suit, no, but
Was he wearing flip-flops?
I was set on someone of great importance, and somebody else said to me, what about so-and-so? I said, well, I think we got the guy. And then I said, well, I'll look at the guy. And he was better than the guy I'd already picked. It happens. So my suggestion is to invite all 5, special call meeting. This is one of the most important things we're ever going to do for the next 10 years. So that's my suggestion. Thank you.
So I would like to also hear from all 5. I did review, thanks to the manager for pointing out the link, and I read through that, and there's some very impressive projects that some of these applicants have done, and it's not like winners and losers. They're all winners. It's fine differences, degrees, small degrees of difference. So would we like them to come and maybe give us, let's say, a 5, 10, or 15-minute presentation each, do it in alphabetical order, and try to be as fair with them as possible, something like that? I think I can learn what I need to know in 10 minutes after we have a month here or 3 weeks, whatever it's going to be, to continue reviewing what they've submitted. Is something like that? Jennifer, if you were being asked to do this as a planner, would you think 10 minutes would be enough to make a decent sales pitch based on the material that we already have? It's kind of a summary, and then maybe it's kind of like we did with the manager, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the presentation's 10 to 15 minutes, that's fine, and then opportunity for questions afterwards, I think that would be good. You have, as you stated, you have a pretty good handle on their proposal. They've all given you examples. Some even provided links to other comp plans that they've done in the state of Florida, so you can always, research those prior to meeting with them. So I think 10 to 15 minutes for a presentation is adequate.
Yeah. Bob, how many minutes did we give you? You remember?
No, sir, I don't recall exactly how many
it's
minutes, but I typically target, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Was it enough?
For a consultant like this, though, Jennifer's right, 10 to 15 is what I would target.
Okay, so 15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah.
No more than.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So are we in a position tonight to choose a date, or we're just gonna have the staff come back and we'll coordinate a date? Do you wanna do this in August? Can we narrow that down? So that's one question. How do we choose that date? And I would also just wonder, I know that the way the staff has ranked these, the lowest group is the Corradino group, and they're literally 20 points below the others. I have a feeling, especially with the history of that group with our town, that they will not, that there's a reason they were ranked so low. So even if we only do the top 4, I'm happy with that. But if Henry wants to see them all, that's fine. But I know we do have a history of working with them, and it hasn't been like rosy. So how do we want to pick this date?
I think Jennifer should reach out to them and see what they have to come here. And so I think Jennifer should talk to them first and pick some dates and see.
How about on Zoom? Can we not do it on Zoom? Because we wouldn't want to pay so are we in agreement? Do we want to pay for these people to come down, or?
No.
No, they just have to come on their own and interview.
If they want to bid the job, they need to show up.
Okay.
They all have offices in South Florida, so I'm
Okay.
not sure that you're paying for anything.
They can come and sing for their supper.
Gotcha. Do you guys want to hear the Corradino group?
I want to hear them all.
Anyone sat on the Affordable Housing Committee? I bet Don could, no, anyway.
All 5.
Okay, got it.
Okay, all 5, and Jennifer, can you pick a date? And I don't know if it's going to be feasible that we're on, today's the 8th, and then we got all the budget stuff coming.
Got a holiday coming, too.
Got a holiday coming.
So
Labor Day.
your September land use meeting right now only has 2, actually 1 items. It's Vice Mayor Mahoney's zoning change. It's the only thing on the agenda for the September land use meeting. I don't know if that's an option for the rest of you, if you feel like that.
What's the date of that?
That would be September 14th, I believe. Oh,
12th.
12th, I'm sorry. I'm in November. Yes, September 12th. September 12th.
That would work if
Yeah.
if it's a light schedule that night.
I'm not anticipating anything else at this point, so it would just be that.
If you all wanted, we could, I mean, it's up to you. If you wanted, we could start early too, come at 4:30 or,
Yeah, we could also start at an earlier time if that works. We could also do a daytime meeting. These are all, consultants that work during the day, so I'm sure they'd be happy to come during the day too. So if daytime,
Is the public invited?
oh yes, it would be open to the
yeah,
public.
it's a public meeting.
I just want to make sure.
Could we start at 4:30 with that meeting, since you're gonna have all 5 of them?
Absolutely. We have not advertised anything yet, so we could advertise at whatever time we'd like, so.
How does everybody feel for
We
4:30?
put them on first so they don't have to sit through all of our lane? Oh, come on, you're going to be here anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll shoot for that and see what we get. And then you're looking for a 15-minute presentation from all of them, and
No
then-
more than.
No more than 15, and then you'll do question and answers for all of you.
They can do PowerPoint and all that.
They can provide, and you would like that in advance, I would imagine?
We'll notify them as to what the results are after they go back home.
Exactly, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We'll deliberate and then.
Yes, we would never tell them in that moment.
Okay. All right, so we have public comment here, John, because we didn't do this last night. So Marnie, do we have any?
I mean, you can take public comment. You're just deferring the item. You're not making any decision, so you're not under obligation to take public comment until you're making a decision on this. So
Okay,
you're okay as is.
okay. Do we have any public comment, Marnie?
Yeah, we have 3 folks who signed up last night or excuse me, 4 folks who are here.
Okay.
I think we should hear that.
Huh?
I think we should hear from.
Okay. So who's here?
Van Cadenhead, Sue Miller, and Jerry O'Cathy.
Okay. Public comment's now open. Okay.
There were 4 members of the public that were in the meeting of the committee to choose the comp plan reformers. And one of them was Councilman Rosenthal, and then the 3 of us who are going to speak, who asked to speak. I guess Sue's not going to speak to it. But we were taken by the fact that there were 5 firms that put forth prospecti of 100 pages. I mean, you all are looking at them now, and it takes a lot to go through it. And we also had on Zoom Rebecca Jeton from Tallahassee, who's an expert state planner and very well respected, and her head and shoulders choice was Calvin Giordano, which we've worked with them before at the beginning of the village. So we saw that the difference between Calvin Giordano and Inspire or Aspire or whatever it is was like 1 point. And when they handed in their score sheets from the committee, the spread among the 5 of them was, minuscule. It was small. I don't recall it being 20 points. I recall it being more like 4 points. One from 441 was Aspire, who got the nod from the committee. 440 was Calvin Giordano. And then the last one, the lowest one, was 437, I believe, which was Corodino. So we thought that it would be advisable to do what you guys are doing, which is to say, because it's so close and it's so important. I agree with Mr. Gregg 100%, because we've had these LDRs and comp plan in place in this village for 25 years. I mean, there have been a little change here and there in 25 years, but we're going for a major reformation, and it's a very important thing that it become something that we can build on for the next 25 years. So I appreciate that point of view, and I think you're wise to take this time and do it right and have a 15-minute a person. I mean, if you want to eliminate the last 2 and make it easy, 1 out of 3 or however you want to do it is up to you totally. But I think it's a really good idea to have this meeting that you're talking about, because we had heard, from the committee that they had chosen one, and I think you should choose the one. But because of the fact that each one of those prospecti was 100 pages, and they were very technical documents, and they gave it to us, the four of us who were sitting there from the public, they gave it to us with 5 minutes to examine 500 pages on all 5 prospecti before they made their decision. So you all are lucky now that you have the time to go over it and make your own decision and discernment. So I just encourage you to do what sounds like you're planning on doing. I think it's a wise move, and it's very important, like Mr. Greg said, for the future of the village. Thank you very much.
Who's next, Marty?
Jerry O'Cathy.
Good afternoon. I concur much with Van, but allow me to share just one further perspective with you. I stand up here tonight to urge you to recommend that you, our elected officials, stewards of our municipality, pocketbooks, and public safety, most seriously reconsider the findings of your July 17th Village Comprehensive Plan Selection Committee. I submit to you that there can be no more important task currently on your agenda at this time other than that regarding the selection of a qualified consulting company to be tasked with amending the all-important comprehensive plan. With the final score culminating in only 1 point difference, as Van alluded to, between the two top candidates, Calvin Giardino and Associates and Inspire Peace Placemaking Collective, the final decision as it now stands was ultimately made for purposes of expediting the council's opportunity to make an August Village Council decision and not be forced to wait until the later September council meeting. This conclusion was reached against the suggestion of Rebecca Jatone, the village's selected comprehensive plan consultant. Excuse me. In 1998, soon after I began working with your county Department of Emergency Management, our office was informed by the State Department of Emergency Management that our office, was in danger of losing our comp grant due to an outdated comprehensive emergency management plan. In order to meet the rigid Florida state mandate, Director Irene Toner and myself worked until satisfied and in a very compressed time frame into the very early hours of the night to meet the mandate. From a 36-page document to a 200-plus page compendium, our office essentially rebuilt the original plan with a streamlined evacuation plan, more orderly and clearly understandable, and subsequently added indexes to include, among others, municipality and Department of Health plans and Florida International University to update our out-of-county evacuation sheltering plan. To the point, one of our primary and most valued points of contact through this entire process was Rebecca Jatone. To dismiss Mrs. Jatone's suggestion that we convene the top 2 candidates for further vetting for the sake of political expediency is akin to opting to take the citizens of our village of islands through uncharted waters or fly a plane load of passengers through our skies without a functioning and updated global positioning system. As a former emergency manager, licensed pilot, and experienced offshore boater, I urge you to heed the advice of Ms. Jatone and reconvene our top 2 candidates.
Hey, Jerry, can you wrap it up, please?
I can, for further interview and consideration. By the way, our reconstructed emergency management plan in 1998 was submitted
Jerry,
to the date
your
before
time's out.
the due date, with kudos from the Florida Department of Emergency Management. Thank you for your attention and smooth sailing.
Marty, who's next, please?
We have no other speakers signed up.
No other speakers? I thought you said Sue Miller was signed up.
Sue does not want.
Okay, all right. Public comment is now closed. All right, so John, there's really no other thing to do, but we just wanted to, since they were here last night and signed up.
Yep,
Okay.
we'll bring this back on for September 12th.
All right, we got it. Okay, so let's move on to ordinances. John?
Yep. Tab B, this is an ordinance on first reading. It's an ordinance of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, amending Chapter 30 Land Development Regulations, Article 7 Environmental Regulations, Division 2 Docks and Shoreline Uses, Section 30-1542 of the Village Code, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce, and providing for an effective date upon the approval of this ordinance by the State Department of Commerce.
Jennifer?
Thank you, Council. This ordinance is before you this evening at your, I guess, your request. This was a product of an variance appeal that was before you several months ago. The homeowners had a dock that they had rebuilt, a tiki hut on a dock they had rebuilt, and it was in violation of setback because we don't allow them tiki huts on docks. And so you had asked me to go back and look at how we could fix this problem for the greater good of the village, as they presented, over 50 other, in their neighborhood alone, over 50 other similar situations that if we had a hurricane or a natural disaster, if they had come down, they wouldn't be able to rebuild either. So in going back and looking at this, speaking with their attorney, speaking with Daniel Parabach, our biologist, and getting some ideas as to the easiest way, I guess, to adjust the code to make this work for everybody. We just added the line item in this section that says structures limited to non-enclosed gazebos and tiki huts not to exceed 15 feet in height on docks perpendicular to the shoreline shall be permitted within the 10-foot setback from the mean high water line. So that will allow docks and tiki huts and gazebos on docks, and this is in the canals and basins section, not on open water. So that would be the recommended suggestion for a change to the code if the council so wishes.
Council, anybody have any questions?
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
I think your task was to solve the problem at the appeal hearing, and you just made reference that this is for canals and basins and so forth. Would there be any negative, unforeseen consequences, or whatever that's called, by extending this to open water properties?
Well, we don't allow perpendicular docks on open water.
We don't?
I'm sorry. Yes, we do. But we don't allow, I'd have to go back and look. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to answer that question.
Well, we can look at this between first and second reading, but, it should be equally available to everyone on the water unless there's a compelling reason to not do that.
There was a reason. I don't have it with me.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that.
I'll hold my fire until you can figure out
Yep.
what's going on. So that's the only question. Otherwise, it sounds like you've solved the appeal problem, and not only that, but in forward thinking, resolve the nonconformities or illegal ones in the rest of that neighborhood. So finally, the village does something that people can be happy about.
Council, anybody else have anything?
I think it's good.
You use the term unintended consequences. Are there unintended consequences here when you've got, people who are, there are a lot of people who are not paying attention to this little ordinance, so you've got the two guys, who live next door to each other, this is blocking people's views, and are we gonna get a lot of blowback from this? So you put your tiki up here, well, I used to be able to see down my canal, now I can't because we just made up this rule to accommodate one guy who really just wanted to rebuild his tiki. I don't know.
It's not one guy. If you go in that neighborhood, there's a
they're all over.
There's loads of them in there.
So do we, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, no, the point is that we all know we're going to get another hurricane. Let's just be honest about it. And this is going to keep happening over and over again to this neighbor and to that neighbor and to this neighbor. So to me, a lot of people buy their houses because they have that tiki hut out there because it's a feature. And I think if you go in there, 99% of the houses have tiki huts on the end of their docks. So I don't.
It's that, do you put in one of these, like, yes, you can rebuild it, but, for all the people who bought their house whose neighbor didn't have one of those and now their view is ruined,
How many,
I don't have no idea.
The fact
I haven't
that
done
there's
the
so many
data.
of them
Just
there
throwing it
that
out there.
shouldn't be tells you that the people want this.
Yeah, they do.
And unless we have a real compelling reason, and I think obstruction of view could be considered that, but, it's not their
kind of
entire view, it's just looking sideways down the canal.
It's a high-class problem, but we have a lot of high-class problems in this town that come before us, so I'm just thinking about, but anyway, that's fine. Just throw it out.
So I have an answer to your question.
Henry?
Okay.
Sorry. So I actually was supposed to tell you that where it says 15 feet in height on docks perpendicular, it's supposed to be docks parallel, because we don't allow parallel docks in open water. We don't, perpendicular docks in canals and basins are very difficult, so we don't have that many in canals and basins. So we would allow them on parallel docks, and that's where most of these tiki huts are found, on parallel docks. So this is a typo where it says perpendicular docks. I just forgot to write my note here to remind myself to tell you that. And then also on open water, we would have problems with shading for seagrass.
Okay, yep, understood.
Henry?
A compelling reason.
You know, we've had the shoreline setbacks forever. The only reason there's a problem is because they're not enforced. And consequently, these people have just done what they want to do. And now you want to make it legal after all these years. You take a canal that's 50 feet, and you got 10 feet on each side coming out. That's 20. You got 30 left. I'm not a boater, but I'm sure a boat is 15 feet. They can't cross each other. And this will pertain to not only this one person or whatever, to everybody. And there's a lot of canals that can accept that situation. So all you're doing is making something that's been illegal for years, legal.
Are you suggesting that it's going to create a navigational hazard?
Yes, in some areas,
Henry,
in some areas.
A 27-foot whaler with an abnormal beam on that is 11 foot. Most of them are 10 foot or under in width, okay? So I can't imagine.
We already have a regulation, please correct me if I'm inaccurate, Jennifer, but I believe the maximum amount someone can, I'll say, encroach into a canal is 25% of its width or something like that?
Navigable with, yeah.
Yes, navigable width. So that we kind of have that base covered already, from what I understand.
Okay, you stand to get in trouble, but that's up to you. I'm looking at it differently. And truthfully, I don't have the background to support what I've just said, because I don't go out in boats. And I
Where
don't
you
have a
live, it's a big boat basin, so.
This isn't an encroachment into the canal, am I right?
No.
It's on the, right, so there,
It's parallel to the shoreline.
yeah, on the shoreline, so it actually is not really a navigation.
I'm looking at something that said a 10-foot variance.
They can't go out in the canal. They're putting them, like in Venetian Shores, Port Antigua, same thing, they're building right along the shoreline, the concrete docks, as she says. You said they're parallel, correct, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They're not encroaching into the,
So you were worried about obstructions. It just occurred to me that people have boat lifts, and they put these monster boats up on a lift that block your view the same way. They
yeah,
go up and
I'm
down.
just thinking, anyway, I mean, that's fine. I don't, just throw
Okay,
it out.
so,
So I'm gonna move to approve it.
Yeah, Marnie, do we have any public comment
Oh,
for this
sorry,
tab?
sorry about that.
Don Horton would like to speak, but he didn't turn it in before the item started.
Okay, what's the consensus here?
I moved to approve it, if you wanna just,
Okay, go ahead. Henry. Go
Would-
ahead, Don.
Go ahead.
You can speak.
Oh, okay.
We got time tonight.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, but that's, thank you for affording me the time. I just, when I heard the conversation, it sprung to me that, before the 86 plan in the county, those were allowed. And then they were not allowed September 15th of 1986 until about 1992. The county commission then actually exempted all cheeky huts, gazebos, and similar structures. And they continued to allow people to rebuild the ones that were there, that was there from 86. So they continued to proliferate. I can't remember when I was building official at the county that I ever got a complaint or had a code enforcement at the village that I got a complaint about somebody having a fish cleaning station and a cover over their fish cleaning station on their dock. It was always one of those things that the neighbors kind of liked to have when they got the boat, got undercover. But that's all. And I'm sorry to put it in late. I didn't know we were going to have a discussion about it.
Henry said to let you speak.
I did.
He did, yeah.
Let the
Okay.
record,
And
let
I
the
was-
record show.
Public comments closed.
I was going to say, if there's any motion, just a reminder that there was a request from the planning department that the change be made instead of perpendicular to parallel.
Okay, so do I hear a motion? Oh, Elizabeth made a motion. Do I hear a
Move to
second?
approve with the change suggested, parallel. Yes, I'll second.
Okay, Marnie, we got a motion and a second. We're changing to parallel, is that correct? Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin?
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Gregg?
Yes.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal?
With the change, yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney?
Yes.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we are going to move on to tab C.
Yes,
Second
tab-
reading, John?
Yep, tab C is an ordinance on second reading. It's an ordinance of Isle of Marna Village, Islands, Florida, establishing a temporary moratorium within the village on the acceptance of new administrative relief applications, providing for exemptions, providing for procedures for vested rights and judicial review, providing for a term, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce, and providing for an effective date upon the approval of this ordinance by the State Department of Commerce. As a reminder, this was before you all previously. This is the second reading. This would put the moratorium on any new affirmative or administrative relief applications for the term of the temporary moratorium.
Okay, and John, so this DEO has how many days? Up to 45 days?
Yes.
Yeah, 45 days. So if it passed tonight,
It probably won't get rendered till next week.
it'll get rendered meaning signed by everyone, get rendered, then it'll be sent up to Department of Commerce, and they have up to 45 days to approve it. So that's when, once Commerce approves it, that's when it will take effect.
Okay, so anybody that's in the system prior to that, this has nothing to do with them, correct?
They have filed an application for administrative relief. That's correct. This would not apply. This applies for new applications.
Okay, all right. All right, anybody else want to? All right, public comment, Marnie?
Yes, Van Cadenhead?
Real quick, I urge you to pass this moratorium because we have so few administrative reliefs. And I just think it's a wise move. I thought it was a good vote the last time. Hope you make a good vote right now. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, we have Mr. Wishmeyer on Zoom. Okay, Mr. Wishmeyer, go ahead.
Yes, I'll be short, just like Van was. I certainly encourage you to pass this. I think it's long overdue, and I wish there were more that were happening so that we prevent future problems. So please vote for this. Thank you.
Anybody else, Marnie?
No, sir.
Okay, public comment is now closed. Council?
I move for,
Henry moves for approval?
yes, I move for approval.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so Marnie, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal?
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin?
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Gregg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney?
Yes.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We are into the quasi-judicial section of the agenda tonight.
Do you want a break? Okay. Are we in agreement that we can take a break? Okay, all right. So we'll bring that back, John. Hold your thought. Okay, go ahead, yeah. All right, we're back in session. And John,
Yep,
what are we on, tab D?
Yep, we're in the quasi-judicial section. There's actually 3 tabs in quasi-judicial, D, E, and F. I'll read my quasi-judicial statement. Please be advised that the following agenda items are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon these items, please inform the village clerk by filling out the available sign-up form. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. As a reminder, testimony in quasi-judicial items must be in person. Zoom testimony is not permitted. These proceedings will be handled in accordance with the village code requirements. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony shall be disregarded. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record, along with the village code and comprehensive plan. Any correspondence that was received by the village staff is included in the file and part of the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures in section 30-256 of the village code may be obtained from the village clerk. As mentioned tonight, there are 3 quasi-judicial items, which are tabs D, E, and F. At this time, I would like to ask anyone who intends to speak on the quasi-judicial items to please raise your hand to be sworn in by the clerk, and if you intend to speak at all on either tabs D, E, or F.
In the matter of which you are about to give testimony, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. The witnesses have been sworn.
Mr. Mayor, tab D is stated as follows. It's a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada, Village of Islands, Florida, considering the request of David L. and Lori V. Webb for a variance from the provisions of section 30-684E4B2 side yard setback to allow for the construction of a new cargo lift within the side yard setback for property located at 92 West Plaza del Sol on Lower Matacumbe Key within the R1M residential single-family masonry zoning district with real estate number 00394488-010800 as legally described herein and providing for an effective date. Council, before we begin, I'd please like you to disclose any ex parte communications that you may have had with the applicant or anyone else. Again, this is tab D. Please include whether the person represented any group or entity as well as the subject matter as you recall. Thank you.
Okay, I've had none. I mean, we're just doing tab D.
This is just for tab D, yes.
I've had none.
None for me.
0 for me.
None for me.
Okay.
We are ready to proceed.
Okay, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Heidi Harem, who's the planner in my department, was prepared to do this evening, but she had an emergency at home, was unable to attend, so I'll be doing this in her stead. Dave and Lori Webb and their agent have submitted this application for a variance approval to allow the construction of a new cargo lift within the side yard setback located at 92 West Plaza del Sol. The village had mailed out notices to adjacent property owners informing them that the project was scheduled to be reviewed by the council. The sign was also posted on the property. The village has received no letters of objection or contact from adjacent property owners as of this council communication. Property is approximately 0.17 acres in size and approximately 7,500 square feet with an existing single-family residence structure. The property is located in the Port Antigua neighborhood. The property is within the residential single-family masonry 1 RM1 zoning district and is categorized within the future land use map as residential medium. The proposed development requires a variance from section 30-684E4B2 to allow for the new cargo lift within the side yard setback. The proposed variance is for a 5-foot 7-inch reduction in the required 10-foot side yard setback for uses and structured in the R1M zoning district. The subject parcel is classified as scarified. In your packet, there's an analysis on the variance relaxation requirements and how each requirement is met by this request. And staff at this time has reviewed the request for the variance and determined that the request is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Then it does comply with the applicable provisions of the Code of Ordinances. Therefore, staff recommends that the council approve the proposed variance to the construction of the cargo lift within the required 10-foot setback by adoption of the attached resolution. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, council, any questions for Jennifer?
I have one, and you may have already said it.
Yes, sir.
So please. The clearance is 5 feet and 10 feet, depending on where you're going. Is that correct?
The side setbacks, yes, you have one side's 5 and one side's 10, it's, yes,
The proposal, is that within the 10-foot or the 5-foot?
the 10-foot.
Okay. Okay, is there,
Yeah,
okay, go ahead, Gay.
Gay Marie Smith, I'm the agent for the project. I just wanted to basically, which I always like to do, is thank staff and Jennifer and her staff. It's been a very easy process. When the process started, Mr. and Mrs. Webb were going to use it just as we would to bring up boxes. Since then, he has had some medical issues come up, and he can't lift anything more than like 4 or 6 pounds. So this is more of a medical necessity now since the application's been made. But I just wanted to thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We tried to keep it. Southeast Marine is going to be doing the cargo lift, and Pete and I worked on it, and we tried to get it as small as we could, so we would not impede any more than we would have to. So, if I have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but thank you very much for hearing us.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Council, anybody else have any questions for Gay? Okay, thank you, Gay. Let's see. John, do we need to ask if there's anybody here to oppose, is it?
Yeah, first is anyone in support, and then.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this? Marnie, you have anything?
I don't have anyone.
Okay, how about anybody that opposes it?
No one signed up.
Okay, all right. So with that, we're done there. Do I hear a motion?
Yes.
To approve?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Okay. All righty, Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal.
Dave, if you're watching, this is my opportunity to get even with you. But I can't do it, so I approve it.
Councilmember Mark Gregg.
Dave, hope you're doing well, brother. I vote yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Joland.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Dave, yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Council, E and F go together. As in the past, we have done with one presentation and one testimony, although we've taken the motion separately. That's something that staff would like to request, as long as that's okay with the applicant's agent. Yeah. Is that okay? We present E and F as one. Sure. We'll take them as separate votes, but it'll be one presentation. Okay. So before we get started on E and F, Council, if you would please disclose any ex parte communications you may have had with the applicant or anyone else. Again, we're talking about tabs E and F, and please include whether the person represented any group or entity, as well as the subject matter as you recall. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Jennifer?
Yeah, you guys have to do your disclosures if you had any conversations.
Oh, okay.
I spoke with Don Horton, and I asked him about the history of ownership and uses for the property.
I did also had a conversation with Don today for just a second. That's it.
Nobody talked to me.
Well, I started to text with Don, but that was it. It didn't, I don't even know if that counts, so.
It would if there was a response. But.
We had a great text exchange.
Anybody else?
Councilmember Rosenthal, did you have any discussions on this item?
No, I did not. Thank you.
All right, we're ready to begin.
Okay. All righty. So Jennifer?
I'm sorry, thank you, Jennifer. I have to read the titles, sorry. Tab E is an ordinance of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, considering the request of Lynn L. Bell to amend the village's future land use map from residential medium RM to mixed use MU for the subject property located on Upper Matacumbe Key with real estate number 00404-730-000000 as legally described herein, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce and providing for an effective date upon the approval of this ordinance by the State Department of Commerce. And F is an ordinance of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, considering the request of Lynn L. Bell to amend the official zoning map from Settlers Residential SR to Highway Commercial HC for the subject property located on Upper Matecumbe Key with real estate number 004047330000000 as legally described herein, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce and providing for an effective date.
Okay, now I can call Jennifer.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening again. We're here tonight for the ordinance requesting an amendment to the future land use map and for the official zoning map for property at the address of 81213 Overseas Highway. As you heard, Lynn L. Bell has requested a map amendment requesting approval for a future land use map amendment from residential medium to mixed use designation and from settlers residential to highway commercial zoning district. The property again is located at 81213 Overseas Highway. It's comprised of 18,385 square feet. The current use of the property is vacant land, and the applicant's agent has submitted a needs analysis detailing the map amendment request. The subject property currently has an existing residential medium future land use designation. The property to the north is designated mixed use. The property to the south is designated public, semi-public service. The properties to the east are designated residential medium, and the properties to the west across Overseas Highway are designated residential high and mixed use. The character of the surrounding area is mixed use with residential uses and commercial uses and institutional uses. The subject property also currently has an existing settlers residential zoning district designation. The adjacent property to the south is designated public, semi-public. To the north, the adjacent property is designated settlers residential. The properties to the west across Overseas Highway are designated multifamily and tourist commercial, and to the east is settlers residential. Again, the character of the surrounding area is a mix of mixed use with collective of commercial uses, institutional uses, and single-family residences. The property is scarified. The property is not recognized as habitat to any federal or state listed animal species. It is not within the state's conservation recreation lands boundary or critical habitat area. Pursuant to the village's GIS data and records, the parcel is defined as scarified. In your packet, there is analysis that includes the maximum density allowed should the change go through, the impact on the public facilities, compatibility with the comprehensive plan, the future land use map amendment criteria, the compatibility with the principles for guiding development, and the procedures for amendments to the zoning map. As you heard earlier in this evening, the LPA reviewed this proposed amendment at their meeting on June 10th and unanimously recommended approval of both the future land use map amendment and the zoning map amendment. And at this time, staff has reviewed both requests and recommend approval of both requests as well. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Don, do you want to?
For the record, Don Horton, I'm the agent for the applicant, and I really want to just thank staff and council for reviewing this and keeping in mind that the LPA did vote, which is fairly rare, for a 7-0 100% vote on to change. It's a pretty basic change, but I'm certainly here to ask any questions.
Council, any questions for Don?
Nope.
Okay, Don, no questions. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm just waiting for somebody to make a motion.
Well, we would have to open it up
We have to open it for
that's right.
any of those that are in favor. Anybody here in favor for this project need to speak?
I don't have anyone signed up.
Okay, all right, anybody here that opposes this project?
Also, no one signed up.
Okay, all right, with that being said, now, do I hear any further discussion, or do I hear a motion to approve?
I want discussion.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. You got the floor, Henry.
Thank you. There are 3 homes behind this property, residential, on the old road. It's been sold several times with the understanding as there would be no upzoning, and that's what we're doing with upzoning. What does that allow? the density intentionally significantly. And with my position, I have no reason to approve this. That's my position, and you can look forward to my vote being in a negative. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to say?
I appreciate your comments. I too am just, would like to point out that here we are, once again, changing the, what is a unique component of our of our keys. We have mixed residential and commercial, and you've got a bunch of homeowners there who will, and this is not highlighted, it wasn't the main, this is, nothing personal, with all due respect. This is, obviously, the application is to get the zoning changed, but this changes that residential community, and it is, we do it all the time. And, maybe we can explore some conditions to put some sort of, and I don't know if that can be concluded tonight, but maybe we ask for something to come back to us so that there is a major buffer with just some sort of conditions. We have no idea what's going on here, and I know that what's going to be going on to this property. It was not presented to our planner, nor is it in the application. So it could be anything. It could be like, I don't know, a Burger King.
Can we ask you, do you know what they're planning on doing?
No, I do not, and I normally don't consider that because we don't consider that when we're doing a zoning change, is basing it a zoning off of. Well, I would like to point out, if the map can come back up here, because it's hard for y'all to look behind you, is that we truly are in a commercial corridor. Right. The zoning previously, pre-1986, was BU 1 or 2. It's really hard to read that map because the old maps were hard. But it was either a light business or heavy business in there before, and that was part of Green Turtle, and it extended all the way down. And then the previous zoning, as I recall, was suburban commercial. So we've always had the commercial corridor down there, and there had been at one time, and you can't see it on but the larger piece of property right here, there had actually been some commercial use on that before, agricultural use, and when Woody owned that, and constantly grew stuff there, and then he would sell it at Robert is here. So it's not, it's really an anomaly that they would have taken this highway property and turned it into residential the way that they did, and it's just another example of how you hodgepodge things in. So it's really the right way to do that. There's another thing that's important. If you look at our comp plan gives us a responsibility for maintaining the mixture of residential and non-residential uses. And the way I looked at it is that right now there's 22 zone properties on Upper Matacumby, and I know Jennifer looks at it a little different than I do, but I look at it as logical and traffic-wise. What do we have, rather than having commercial properties throughout the whole village? There's 22 highway commercial zone properties, and there's only 2 that are vacant right now on Upper Matacumby. Both of those are high-quality hammock, and neither one of them have a curb cut. It is a responsibility for us to maintain commercial uses or the potential for commercial uses on our islands. And that particular piece of property does have a curb cut, and that particular property does not have any vegetation on it. It's a scarified lot. So it would be the logical one in a commercial corridor to request the change to be made. It was business before, it was commercial, suburban commercial before, as I recall. So it only makes sense to maintain that the same way.
Can I ask you something? Seeing how this is so much in line with what I'm going through with my property, when I sat here and listened to the concerns of the people around me, if I was going to put in a microbrewery or a Burger King and everything, to me it was a joke because I have no plans to do that. But at the same time, looking at this now, I think if I were the people who lived there, I would have the same concerns that they had. I have no problem saying okay to this with stipulations. I'm sorry, I just don't want to see something put there that those people who have bought their homes, who live back there, and there's a big difference between growing fruit trees and a strip mall.
Well, there
to me.
certainly is a huge difference, but remember that we've advertised this 3 times. We've had it in the public realm 3 times. I've talked to some of the neighbors in there, and there's nobody here talking about it. So,
Okay, so Don-
we would still have to come in front of council if we were going to do a minor conditional use or a major conditional use, and it'd still be a public notice of whatever's going to be built there. So, it's not like we're going to surprise anyone if something goes there. I can be quite honest with you. Our council has placed moratorium after moratorium to stop residential building. We had a certain number of early outs that were granted to the village, and the council has taken more than half of those and shoved those away. There's already a whole bunch of applicants that are in the queue to eat up the majority of the other early outs. And really the only thing at this point that could possibly be built there would be 4 affordable housing apartments, which would certainly create a whole lot of traffic without anybody being able to say anything about it. So we've got the potential, if there was to be something built there, it would still come in front of council if it was a minor or major conditional use, and still certainly have the review of the public, of the knowledge of the public that something's being built there. So it seems to make logic that there was just a mapping error when they did that, to plug on the commercial corridor a residential use.
So the church is on one side.
Yes, sir.
Eleanor owned all this property.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Eleanor's has no problem with this, right?
Eleanor actually wanted to try to do this when Eleanor owned the property.
She did. I know.
Eleanor just, she didn't want to spend the money that it takes in order to go through a zoning and plumb change.
Right. Okay, and then you have all that red is commercial, correct?
Yes, sir. That's all highway commercial.
I see where Square Grouper, Square Grouper, then I see the Cactus, then I see right there behind First Horizons Bank there. Then you have the Turtle property there. The Turtle property is the blue, but you have the green right next to it. And then you have the green, and then it comes up to Kontiki, right?
That's right.
Okay, and the house next to Eleanor is, I believe, commercial because it's owned by Bob Rich. It's owned by the Turtle, the house right on the highway.
That's right, the one behind.
And Eleanor's been on the highway. Yeah. She owned that property all the way to the old road. We're talking, her daddy married into the Pender family.
Yes.
Okay, that's where they got that property from because the Penders owned all that.
Yes, I think actually. One or two of those houses behind that may actually have vacation rental licenses as well.
Yeah. Well, she owned 2 houses, the little tiny house and then the main house where Mr. Lewis lived, okay? But you're right, Woody grew soursop on that property.
Yes, sir.
And he did sell it to Robert, and they are on Overseas Highway.
They are.
Okay, they are on the highway. And all that stuff is commercial. And that's where I have a problem. That I don't have a problem with this, what you're talking about doing, but I have a problem when we're saying, well, we're changing this. Well, that was all commercial. The village changed a lot of this.
They did.
Including my property that was suburban commercial right across the street. The piece that Mark owns was changed. The piece that Sharon owned was changed. That was all BU2. Where the commercial building that Hershaw Filipino used to be, my brother, Harlan, and Jay and Jerry owned that commercial building. That was BU. They changed it. They went back to the county. They got it put back, okay? So to me, that's on the highway. You got the Turtle there. You got all that traffic at Green Turtle Restaurant. They own the house next door, which is Workforce. That's commercial property. So we're going to give somebody a hard time that's on US 1. The church is next door. The church has in and out property, okay? There's tons of vacation rentals right around this where he's talking about going. And I know Eleanor wanted to put more homes on it, but it was too cost prohibitive for her. She couldn't even get a permit. Okay, what Don's saying is the workforce housing permits. Here's a lady that was born and raised here on Upper Matacumbe Key, okay? And it's a shame she had to sell it to get the money, okay? So, and she's okay with this, right? Because I know she would be calling me if she wasn't.
If anybody knows Eleanor, if Eleanor's going to have a problem.
She would have been calling me, I know.
Eleanor would have called everyone.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, oh, sorry. I don't know Eleanor. Nor do I know what's going to happen on this property because it's not being presented to us. And you know, you have some experience. We just went through some experience, I think, with your property and the change that was going to be made on your neighboring property, even though it's highway commercial. And so I know you're sensitive to the idea that, wow, I bought in thinking it was going to be this, and all of a sudden you were asking me to put a bunch of affordable housing on the next door property. I mean, I know we're all sensitive to that, right? Because we all live here. And I don't know if Eleanor has plans on living here forever. She might move, who knows? But what we're talking about is how we treat our residents. And here's, I mean, and additionally, there's a church right next to it, a beautiful church. So because we're not being given any other information, but do we want a spot zone, you know, well, now we have the opportunity to disrupt a beautiful community of people who worship every Sunday and serve a lot of our residents who need their services, and that entire residential neighborhood. I mean, you know, personally, I am going to side on with the residents and the investment that they made in those properties. And I'm assuming that they came into this community and spent the money on their properties without the expectations that we are just going to randomly change the zoning in the neighboring properties just because somebody asked. That's where I'm at today.
Okay, so
I'm on the side of the resident.
Don, correct me if I'm right. The banyan tree next door, is that commercial too, that's right on the highway next to the Baptist church?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so, you know, guys, you got the turtle right next to Eleanor, which eventually her property could be acquired by the turtle for housing, okay?
But that's not what we're talking about.
Okay, I understand. I understand. But anyways,
talking about
Don,
someone
I'm not going to say anymore. I'm not going to sit here and argue. I just, you know what? It's Elizabeth. I was born and raised in this community, and I hate it when people when the village changed stuff. Okay, and Miss Miller knows because she was part of that when this. Okay. There was a lot of people in this community that wanted the changes, and they changed people's property illegally, okay? And I was told that by one of our former managers, Charles Baldwin, who played racquetball with Greg Goebel, myself, Frank Hawkins, and a bunch of others, and he said it should be put back. Sharon's property was one of them that was actually changed that was wrong.
Is this property, is that what's happening here on this property? That wasn't presented.
What's that?
This change in zoning, that was not presented in our material.
It's not property that Don is. Yeah, it is.
Where is that information? It was not presented to us in our material. This is equivalent to Sharon's that used to be zoned a certain way, and then it was, well.
Previous zoning was suburban commercial.
And then before that, it was BU 1 or 2.
BU 1, which is business when the county
BU 1 was the pre-comp plan, pre-county.
I would say that the reason.
I'm just trying to give facts, Elizabeth. I want to give correct facts, not incorrect facts. That's what I'm trying to do.
Bring to me when these other people built their homes, because, and I would suggest that Eleanor, whoever she is, had to sell that property because we are making it too expensive to live in this town because we do things like this. That's what I would put forth.
I'm listening, I'm learning.
Anyways, Don, I don't have, Mark, I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to say. I think it's terrible that the county, it was BU1, and everybody wants to go in and change stuff. Those of us that have been here a long time, people have owned property, and, they change it, and then today we're gonna come in, and Elizabeth, I know there's a bunch of people in this town that don't want any more building whatsoever. They don't want anything. They don't want hotels here. They want this to be a park, okay? They want it to be totally a park, okay? So they can go fishing, they can do their thing, okay? No, seriously, I've had people tell me they don't want the hotels because people swim on the reef and they break the coral, they do all this. We need to make this whole area a park. I'm telling you, I've had people
You know, this group sat here yesterday and we all talked about the American bald eagle and the hammock. And we, as a group, continue to destroy that environment and the reef environment when we allow random, I mean, this is spot zoning. We continue to do it without any, hold on, without any kind of restriction. Is there a way to meet this in the middle? Maybe, but we can't even talk about it because we're so at odds. There is a way to, I mean, again, I guess there's a way to find a compromise, but we're not there because we can't. We can't have that conversation because it's nuanced, and that is what's going to require us to save our coral reefs and our eagles.
Okay, you know what? And I was born and raised here just like Sharon, okay? I grew up here, okay? And you know what? I love where I live, and I want my kids. Why do you think that I have fought to keep the ocean clean and to do the things? Listen, you know what? I tried to restock the conch, okay, myself, a 501c3, but it gets so political, okay? But I'm just saying. Anyways, I'm not going to get into all that because you know what? There's all of us see through different islands, okay? But we're taking people's property rights away. You weren't here when it was Zone BU2. I was and Sharon was, and Mark knows about it because he's owned a lot of property. So their rights were taken away.
The irony is that the people who have been here
all right, I'm not going to argue anymore. I just think, Don, Mark.
Dying to hear Mark. Go ahead.
I want to hear Mark.
Well, I'm going to take a middle position.
Oh, like me.
I was looking at the colorful Andy Warhol overlay of the map. Thank you very much. I like that. And, you know, I see. Wow, I guess that's a message. Am I supposed to shut up now? Oh. So I'm impressed, number one, with the amount of red on that map indicating commercial use. I have made lots of donations and am a big supporter of the Baptist Church. They take care of a whole lot of homeless and needy people, and without them in our community, I think we would be in really bad shape. They do what no one else wants or cares to do. So, you know, anything offensive to them is off the table for me. On the other hand, if you look where the red is just next to the church, I think that's the banyan tree. And this council, before you two ladies became part of this, an item came, and I believe it was Andre Hopman, and he purchased the lot behind that, and we approved the zoning of that, and I believe it was to commercial. And the church did not oppose that. I don't know what he's doing with that.
We voted for it too.
I think we all voted for it. So, and what has been discussed about the previous zoning and the mistakes made, I agree with all of that too. And the lot, to me, if it was suitable for residential purposes, it would have been developed by now because of the pressures that we see in our community to develop everything, every square inch of the place. So there's a message from the marketplace that the reason it doesn't have a house on it is because it's probably not market suitable for that. I think Don mentioned that we could put 4 units on there, affordable units, because it's fronting on US 1. I don't think that's accurate. I don't want to say that for sure because I can't remember everything anymore. But that provision only applies to R1 properties, like where you and I live, buddy. It doesn't apply to the settlers residential. So I don't think they get to take advantage of that same thing, even though this one truly is fronting on US 1. And I'm sensitive to the lady that's lived next door. I don't know Eleanor either. I know her son very well. And I know some of the neighbors back there. There may be some vacation rentals. But it sounds to me like there's a lot of passion here on the dais tonight, a lot of interest, a lot of concern. To me, what makes sense is for us to take a step back. We're on the verge of redoing things. Rather than shoot this down in flames, why don't we pause this? Let's review this after we've made some changes and we're looking forward into the future instead of backwards into what's already happened. Let's see if there's something that can come up or this can be used and changed with everyone's participation and not just the 5 of us. So with that in mind, I don't want to make a decision tonight. I mean, I'm sorry, Don, I know you'd like to do that, but I can read the tea leaves as well as anyone else here, and I know where this is going. And rather than not try to help someone and then on the other hand try to hurt someone, let's just pause this and let's refine what we want that area to look like and the development within the village as a whole. I mean, it would take a residential lot off of the list, you know, as far as the takings issue, and then that one, if it were commercial, could be developed with commercial square footage, so there's a benefit to that. There's a lot of moving parts with the picture here of the puzzle that we could make, and I just don't think tonight is a good night to make that call, because it's just, we obviously have different opinions, and I respect every word that everyone said here. My position is we defer this until after our comp plan and zoning change has been done, give them an open opportunity if that's permissible, and if that's allowable in our code or our plan, and come back and take a fresh look at it then.
Just a reminder, Council, under your code, you can defer for a maximum of 180 counts.
I know that too, and that's why I'm asking if that's permissible or not, but, I mean.
What did you say?
If the council wanted to defer under the code, it could be deferred for a maximum of 180 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and Mark, the other thing, I mean, the LPA voted 7-0 on this, man.
I know, that's super rare.
We never follow the LPA. You just want to throw it out there. Rarely do we even consider what they say. You and I, you all know that. I'm not saying they're always wrong. I'm just saying we rarely follow them, and they're probably pretty frustrated with us.
The LPA does the heavy lifting, and they're the shock absorber for us. And you know, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate what they did, because I did it for a while and know a little bit about how that process works. But
I watch all their meetings. It's
yeah.
very helpful.
But you know, why should we vote on something where half the people involved are going to be angry and the other half are going to be happy? Let's find a way where everybody can work on this. And I'm sorry, Don, your client's going to be delayed in their thing, but you know, it's not going to go forward tonight. I think you can read the tea leaves here. So at least it keeps the door open to make this a better, change this for the better down the line, if that's what everyone agrees to do. And it'll be in conformity. We could change it tonight. It could become non-conforming a year from now, whenever all the changes go through. So that's my thought. End of speech.
Okay, Sharon, did you want to say something?
I agree with Mark. I like the middle-of-the-road approach. I always have, and there is different ways. I do understand the rezoning is so unfair, but, you know, we're going back years and years and years, so for the first time, I agree with Mark. Tastes funny coming out of my mouth, but I agree with Mark that we should wait, so.
Okay, so Henry, go ahead.
I knew Eleanor for I don't know how many years. I had the turtle for 30 years, I guess. She was a neighbor. I understand her financial condition. If you had to say, I don't know, you want to do it or not do it, I know her well enough, she would say no. I have not visited the adjoining property owners on the old road. I will. I want to see what they have to say about it. I'm sure they don't want a grocery store there, for example. I'm sure they don't want trash cans to be picked up in the back lot between the properties. There's so many things that I want to talk to these people. You say you've gotten the consent of the adjoining property owners and even Eleanor. I'm not saying I don't believe you.
I never said that, though, sir. I said there was no one that contested the application. I never said that I had consent from them. And since we're on the record, we need to be correct. Thank you.
So that would include the adjoining property owners. There's nobody contesting it. Okay? So you're right. I'm right. So to delay it is undoubtedly the best thing to do. And if we make a decision, that has to be acceptable to the community being right there.
Well, Henry, you know that Eleanor owned the two houses that are right behind this property.
I know about
one of them, Tommy Nielsen, lived in the little place. And I believe it is a vacation rental today. Okay, and I know all about the Baptist church myself.
Okay.
okay? So, you know, I mean, Mark, I mean, hey, I gave them $5,000 out of my campaign in 22 that I had left over for their feeding program,
Yes,
their outreach program there.
That's commendable.
The church building was given to them by the Methodist Church.
I understand all that as well. I'm just dealing with the people that are rightfully involved.
Okay, and Henry, the house next to Eleanor coming back towards the Turtle is owned by the Turtle. It's where Bob Rich owns it. It's where the chef lives.
I understand all that.
Anyways.
I have one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Jennifer, could you just help me for a second what is permissible in a highway commercial zone? Like a gas station or like a?
Sure, there's quite a list. Excuse me. So single-family dwelling unit, deed restricted affordable dwelling units of 25 units or less, brew pubs of less than 1,500 square feet, restaurants of less than 1,500 square feet, microbrewery of less than 3,000 square feet, and then low, medium intensity office retail service establishments less than 3,000 square feet, and it lists about, I don't know, 40 different types of those, if you'd like me to list those off.
They'd be like doctor's offices.
Animal hospital, bakery, boat service and sales, bowling center, building supply store, car wash, commercial recreation facility, courier service, cultural community center, daycare center, delicatessen, dive shop, electronics store, exterminator service, farmer's market, fence sales and installation, food store, funeral home, furniture repair, garden center, gym, hardware store, home furnishings, appliance repair, landscape service, laundry and dry cleaning, locksmith, medical office and supplies, movie theater indoors, office supply, pool sales and service, salons, professional services, including accountant, administrative, management, architect, engineer, counselor, blah, 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 recording, broadcasting studio, sewing, supply service, tackle, fishing shop, visitor center, and video rental. And then outdoor storage and supply areas on vacant lots fronting on US 1 pursuant to Article 6, Division 8 of this chapter, which is our outdoor storage and display areas. Those are the permitted uses. We also have some minor conditional and major conditional uses as well.
Thank you.
And on top of those, it just, so that you know, we're next to a church, so we can't have a liquor store, we couldn't have a drive-through, we couldn't have beer sales or any of that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't take any of that into consideration.
Wait
No,
1 minute.
we
Wait
do
1
that.
minute. I had a contract on the, what's that, no, right there, with the big tree,
The banyan tree.
banyan tree.
Yes, sir.
I had a contract on that. I wanted to sell liquor. I went to the Baptist church, and they said, we don't care about that. I mean, I'm just telling you that they didn't care. So that's not a set rule. I think we're dealing with a lady who is financially strapped and cannot oppose this happening.
Eleanor does not own that property.
She doesn't own it. She already sold it.
This application is under.
If she wanted to contest it, she doesn't have the funding to contest it.
I understand.
That's a given.
I want to ask a council question. There seems to be some reluctance based upon the unknown, and the unknown is what will go on that property. So there's an in-between, middle-of-the-road option that you may want to consider, and you may not. And that would be to allow the applicant to amend the application to create a site-specific area that limits the kind of uses there to those that you might feel would be compatible with the rest of the neighborhood, as we have done in other places. And it's changing the zoning, but it's not a full zoning permission thing. Don, is that something that you could discuss would be willing to discuss with your client and see if that would work?
You've already talked about extending this and not voting tonight. It certainly gives me time to go back to talk to Ms. Bell and ask her, if she'd do a site-specific text amendment. Sure.
So that would satisfy the 6-month limitation, wouldn't it?
Sure, I just want to make the council aware of something. Today, I received a phone call from the Department of Commerce regarding a vote that you took on another zoning change down in Lower Metacumby, known as the Sojourn property, where you voted a site-specific zoning change, and the Department of Commerce is likely going to issue an objection to that. They're not favorable to the site-specific zoning. They have until August 20th to make their decision, but they wanted to make me aware of that. So I just want to caution the council of continuing to make those site-specific zoning changes until we hear what Commerce's actual objection is.
Okay.
Which still gives us time to see what DOC.
I just wanted to put the caution out there.
Okay, so council, let's talk about how we're going to defer this. Mr.
I have a
Horton?
question, actually, whenever.
Okay, John, okay. What does he need to do? We need to do it within 180 days, correct?
Yeah, it would be a motion to defer would be for a maximum of 180 days. That puts you into February. I think it's before the scheduled February meeting, so the reality would be the January meeting, January 9th.
He could do it any time before that if he wanted, right after he talks to his client?
If there was an ability to bring it back sooner, we could request the council to bring it back sooner.
Okay. Okay, Elizabeth, you have the floor. You said you wanted to talk.
You know what, sorry, go ahead, Sharon, then I do have a follow-up question.
No, I was just going to ask, what did, the Sojourn property, if you could tell us? Was it about the, making it, keeping it a dock, or what was it about?
They just, the only thing they were able to express to me at this time was the site-specific, the sub-area that we created. They had some concerns about that and whether or not people down the road, if there were purchasers of the property down the road, if they would understand what that meant. I tried to explain to them that we have others in our comp plan and that it's done, that way. And they weren't sure about that. I talked to them yesterday at length about the whole process, and then they called me back today and said that they had some concerns about it and were likely going to issue an objection. So they said they couldn't give me any more information than that, and I would get the letter on August 20th.
That's a planning tool that we have used and they have approved on a number of occasions.
That's correct.
Would it be appropriate to ask the village attorney, not that you don't have the right voice, but there may be some legal arguments to be made? This is a game change to us, not for the better. We're trying to do things right, and this is undercutting our effort to do that.
Jennifer and I spoke about this earlier today. I don't want to get too far into this because it's a quasi-judicial item on this, but this was something that we spoke about today, and we will be working on it as well in connection with Mr. Cole.
I assumed you would. Thank you. So, meanwhile, back to the...
I'm not sure if that example, and maybe you guys, maybe you're too, maybe this issue that you brought up is too fresh, but I'm not sure if that example is applicable to what we're talking about here. I mean, aren't we, for example, with the Islander thing, that issue that was just pulled off, you're asking us to do something similar. We're making some zoning changes and plum changes, and then approving a site. I mean, so how is that different than what we're kind of having a conversation about here?
Oh, I didn't know that's what you were asking.
But John, don't we need to be careful here, because we're talking about two separate projects here, where Mr. Horton is here for this particular property. We need to just get it deferred and...
No, we are, this question, I get to get an answer to that question, and it doesn't break any quasi-judicial issues.
So I was not under the impression that you were asking Mr. Horton to come back with a site development plan, like a use, a site plan. If that's the case, then that's a whole different issue. You're correct.
No.
Okay, that's I think what Councilwoman Jolin just asked me.
I'm talking about sub-district.
Right.
No, wait a minute. When we were talking about, just correct me if I'm wrong, we were asking Mr. Horton if he could come back with some more information about this piece of property that's before us to tell us, what are you going to build there? Because obviously, these people are asking for a change to do something with it. And so I was understanding that your middle ground is, hey, come back, tell us what's going to happen there, so that we know it's going to be a Dollar Tree, or it's going to be a fairground, or a bakery with a gas station in it. Is that what you were asking him to do?
Well, what I was asking him is to utilize this planning tool that we've used before, and it's not so much that he's going to tell us what he's going to do, he's going to tell us what he's not going to do. And I think that that's what we're all interested in. He's not going to be able to put a business there that sells alcohol because it's right next door to a church. And Jennifer read to you a long list of what is allowed. He's going to eliminate some or a few or maybe a lot of those things. I don't know what they're going to come back with, but you will know that will be more limited than what is allowed today, and that may be enough to get them to the finish line or not, so that everyone can feel comfortable with that. And it would be a reduction of allowable rights. It would be a light version of what is allowed today. So that to me is a compromise that respects property rights and allows the neighborhood to be flexible. Zoning is not static. You know, life goes on, things change, the village changed, we've grown. So we got to adjust from time to time. And maybe this is a baby step that we can take before we get to our big comprehensive plan change in a year from now. You know,
Short comment.
people are entitled to relief, you know, and if it's a
do you
small adjustment, it's not a big deal.
Do you understand what,
I've done site-specific text amendments multiple times, so yes, ma'am, I fully understand them.
I don't mean that I'm not asked, I'm just, what actually he's not saying is a site-specific, I mean, I think,
It's called a sub-district. I use the site-specific thing because that's how my brain works, but it is a comprehensive future land use restriction that's in the comp plan, not in the zoning plan.
That's right.
And it says it will be zoned for highway commercial, provided, however, the following uses will not be allowed.
It won't be permissible.
They're not allowed, and there's a long list of them. And we did the same thing on the sojourn property.
That's correct.
so that works for you?
Well, that's what I'm going to have to take to my client and certainly oppose that to her. I think it's a wonderful tool. I've used it multiple times in the village, and it certainly is up to the property owner to make that decision. But I'm hearing you guys, and you want to hold this off and postpone this, and let us come back with something more palatable, and we're more than happy to do that.
I think rather than give a hard no tonight,
so too. Yeah,
it's only fair to give them
and I don't
an
think-
opportunity.
yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think anyone here is, I think it sounds like a nice agreement.
Okay, so
I just want to say one thing. The church did not oppose for me to sell liquor next door.
Thank you, Henry, you said that.
I know.
Appreciate that.
Good, because you keep using it. That's just,
No, sir, I said it once, but that's fine. It's
Okay.
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 I fully understood what you said. Thank you.
very good. Thank you.
I mean, Henry, the Keys is different. Chico Lodge sells alcohol right in front of Matacumbe Methodist Church. You got whatever the liquor store is right there by the monument. You know what I'm saying? That's the way Alamorada was built.
It's reasonable for the church to object to that.
No, they can. They can.
But they didn't with me. That's all I'm saying.
I understand.
That's
I
the
understand.
only reason.
Okay, so John, tell us what we need to do for a motion that'll make Mr. Horton, what's,
Give them a chance to come back.
Yeah, it would just be a motion to defer, and I think you could do it all in one motion for tabs E and F.
Okay.
And it would be a motion to defer, and we would need to put in a time certain within the 180-day period, and it would be a motion to defer tabs E and F to date X at the council meeting at 5:30 here in at Founder's Park.
But isn't it a motion to defer with a request to come back with a,
Well, it's their option. If they decide they don't want to do that, then it expires and it's game over.
Don, are you okay with what John just said?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Couldn't
what,
have said it better.
does he need to pick a time?
Well, it's up to the
certain?
council. I mean, it's your discretion as to when you want to do it.
What do you want to pick, Don? What would be good for you?
It's up to the good of the council. So
We gave him the time 6 months. He could still come in early, couldn't he?
Yeah, we could make a request to council to come back in earlier if it was
Okay,
ready.
so we say 180 days, and if you want to come back
the
in
ability to come sooner.
90 days, okay?
so I would-
180 days with the ability to come sooner,
Okay,
that's fine.
all right.
but I would like to request of this council that we add in the language, the deferral with a request, because then it's clear to his applicant, his customer, and for the record, that we've had the conversation, and we're just requesting that to help move this forward. He doesn't have to, it's not a requirement, it's just a request. In fact, I could make the motion right now. So I'd like to move that we defer this to 180 days with a request to come back with a site-specific plan. With a request, it is a request, and that,
Yeah, and the council meeting, the latest council meeting in the 180-day period would be January 9th at 5:30 here at
we have to,
the
okay,
chamber.
which would be as spoken.
And I'll second it just for the sake of doing it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Don, are you okay with that, or do you, I mean,
It's up to the will of the council.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not
fine
him,
with that.
it's us.
Yes, sir.
We get to choose.
Well,
It's very fair.
that
we-
decision for site-specific is up to him. Why do we have to have that in there? If he doesn't do it, then he's probably gonna get shot down.
No,
But
think we
I don't
all-
agree with that. I think just let him make his own
They vote
decision.
no, that's
Well,
what
then,
it's on the table. So here's the reason,
It-
Sharon,
It's a
is this.
non-binding request.
It's non-binding. It's
Request.
it's just a request to say that to express the intention of this conversation, which should bring some acknowledgement to Buddy's extreme view and mine. I mean, we both have extreme views on this, and this is an acknowledgement that there's a middle ground.
okay, there's no binding with this, John, what
No,
she's
it's just
talking
the
about,
word
the request?
request.
Yeah, I mean, it's a request. It's, I mean, if his client says, no, I'm not gonna do it, it'll come back and we'll let council know at that time and council can vote how it chooses. So, yeah, it's a non-binding, it's a request.
All right, so Marnie, Don, we have a motion, Marnie, we have a motion and a second. And would you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal,
Yes,
Councilmember Mark Gregg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney,
yes.
and Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all very much.
Are we done?
I believe we're done.
Yes,
it,
that's
'cause
everything on the
Bart-
agenda, yeah.
The three that Bart had was, do I hear a motion to,
so moved.
to adjourn? Yeah, look at it. It's still daylight.